can you give an overview for an American consumer looking at a bottle of Chianti for the first time? just what are the rules about Classico and Reserva in terms of aging and what you have to do in the cellar? So sort of a A to Z primer.
Okay.
Very much a primer.
Fine. We have, if you pass me the bottle, Stefan. This is the Reserva, but we have the pink slip around the top. So when you go into a supermarket or a shop or anything, the first thing you'll notice is the pink slip around the top, which has got the gallo, it's got the rooster, the black rooster on it. This means this pink slip means that the Chianti Classico, the wine that's made in this bottle, comes from the area between Florence and Siena. Basically, it's like a hand, the area. You've got Florence up here, and you've got Siena down here. And this whole area, within this area, is Chianti Classico. The wine that's in this bottle has to come from a designated Chianti Classico vineyard. So within that area, we also have vineyard, which is not actually Chianti Classico, but Tuscan table wine. So there is actually a set quota of vineyards within the Chianti Classico area. It can't get bigger, it can't get smaller. So if I want to plant a vineyard, if I buy a piece of land and have a lovely piece of land, if I want to make it Chianti Classico, I have to somebody else has to pull out their vineyard, and I buy that piece of paper, that quota, from him to be able to plant then my Chianti Classico vineyard. If I don't have that, I have to buy from somebody else, but that can come from anywhere in Italy, a table wine quota. So somebody else pulls out a table wine vineyard, I buy that piece of paper, and I can put it in here. So I could, within the Chianti Classico area, it's not said just because I'm in this Chianti Classico area that I actually have Chianti Classico vineyards. I can produce Vino da Tavola as well, if I've bought the planting rights. So we've got Chianti Classico vineyards. We also have a little bit of table wine grapes as well, Vino da Tavola grapes. So the basic thing is within that area, you have to be within that area, and within that area you also have to have Chianti Classico vineyards. This pink slip is guaranteeing you that the wine has come from within the Chianti Classico, but also from vineyards from Chianti Classico. It used to be a quality control. It still is. What happens when I bottle a wine, I do my blend. I put it in the tanks. Then I call up the official, and he comes around and he takes a sample, and he'll send it to the Camera di Commercio, which is the tasting panel, who will then taste the wine, and they'll analyze it, and then they'll taste it, and based on the analysis and on the tasting, they'll say it's fine. The Chianti Classico I have to keep in the cellar for 18 months, and the Reserva, which is the sort of next step up, I have to keep in the cellar for 2 years. And in the 2 years of the Reserva, at least 3 months has to be in a bottle. So it has to have at least 3 months of bottle age, and then I can release it. Brunello and Montalcino, they have their own things. I think it's 5 years for the Montalcino, whereas in Chianti Classico it's only 2 years for the Reserva. So what happens is he'll come for the Reserva, or whether for the Chianti Classico, he'll take the samples, do the analysis, taste it, get them to taste it, and then I get the go-ahead to say, okay, it's fine. Now, as a winemaker, I have one foot in on say, okay, that's great, it's an appellation, I'm behind it, but on the other side, if I'm a winemaker and I say, I think this wine's worth to go in bottle, and other people tell me that it's not worth going in bottle, it's not very nice. So it's a little bit of a bone of contention I have with the Consorzio and Chianti Classico, is that, if I'm making Chianti Classico out of Chianti Classico vineyards, and then somebody else is telling me that it's okay, it's a little bit difficult. Giorgio Armani, nobody tells him whether his shirt looks good or not. He just makes it and then waits for the critics to say it. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit difficult if you're a winemaker and somebody else is saying, yeah, your wine's typical, or it's not.
Isn't that the basis of the IGT Super Tuscans then? So people who didn't want to be told their shirt wasn't good?
Well, exactly. I mean, when we were talking about earlier the history of the area, this whole area became more famous because of the Super Tuscans. What happened is the people were tied down a little bit by these laws, Sangiovese and various things, and a few guys said, okay, we want to do something else. We want to plant Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and things down on the coast near Bulgari, and so they started planting these vines, and they had to call them. They couldn't give them an appellation because the appellation also said either Sangiovese or something else. So they called them Super Tuscan. Well, they called them Vino da Tavoli di Toscana, and then some journalists came up with it because they did really well, the wines, and they came up with the Super Tuscan idea, and that really brought the spotlight, those wines, because they were international style wines with Cabernet Sauvignon put up against Bordeaux and put up against California. They started winning prizes, and it sort of brought the spotlight onto Tuscany, and a lot of people. I mean, it helped us, that fact. Now we're going away from the Cabernet and from the Merlot because we really want to make wines that taste as though they come from here, and with grapes, indigenous grapes, and so on and so forth. And we started making in 1982. John and Palmina started making La Gioia, which is 100% Sangiovese, but the idea was to make a Super Tuscan out of Sangiovese, which then we can put up against the Bordeaux guys and just say that we can do it too, but out of an indigenous grape rather than using the French grapes. So, but if you go into a wine shop, the first thing you're going to see is on a Chianti Classico is that there's the pink slip, and the pink slip just tells you it comes from Chianti Classico. It doesn't say whether it's good or not. One of my problems with the Chianti Classico is, if I'm walking through New York with my sales guy, we go into a wine shop and say, "Hi, I'm Sean. This is Riecina, Chianti Classico." He may say, "We've already got one of those," and that's something that annoys me a little bit about working in an appellation, is that you immediately get thrown into the group of Chianti Classico. Chianti Classico is this, but Riecina is Chianti Classico, but it's also Riecina. It's not like my next door neighbour. It's got more person. It's got my personality. It's got the personality of the terroir. So it's a little bit of a problem when you're working in an appellation that you're trying to make your own personality, but you immediately outside the country get thrown into a sort of brand, which makes it a little bit more difficult, especially as Chianti Classico goes from €2 up to €70 a bottle, and that's probably a little bit of an indication of quality, sometimes the price. Because if you're buying a wine at €2 when the cork alone costs nearly €1, you should be a bit worried about the quality of the wine. Probably shouldn't say that, but